everybody, and welcome to Nervardia. All right, sorry. That was just a request from Jen. So I hopefully everyone can see and can the... Okay, cool. So it is now definitely live. I'm just the lag. Okay, so...
We sure are.
Yeah. Okay, so from the clockwise, okay, just letting everyone know that I have had a really fucking long day today. I've had a 12-hour shift today, so if I make 0 sense, just pat me on the head and just talk.
I will giggle.
Yeah, okay. So going from the clockwise directions, so NotJah, you're next. Who are you? What are you doing? Why are you here? Who the fuck are you?
Yeah.
And
well, that is the question, isn't it? Who is NotJah Witness? And to answer this, you're really going to have to just go and check me out at NotJah Witness pretty much everywhere except Facebook, because Facebook sucks, but we won't talk about that. But, you know, I'm NotJah Witness. I do NotJah Witness see things. I'm here because, I don't know, I woke up to see I found out I was included in a chat group, and I was like, hey, this looks fun. So now I'm here.
Yay. All
Yay.
right. Yay. Jen?
Yeah. I'm losing my headphones again.
You're losing your head.
Yeah, I've lost my head. It's the glasses.
Where's your head at?
Where's your head at? All right, keep going.
Under the glasses, what do you expect? I'm Jen from Jen's Little Corner. I do all sorts of weird and wonderful other content, like usually taking the piss out of people who are really, really dumb on the internet. But I do other bits and pieces now and then, and yeah, I'm sure half of you at least know me, or the people in the chat do, so that's all good.
And I would like to introduce everyone to Atheist Pastor, aka Chris. He is a newbie on the scene, and he is awesome as well, because he is. He's only got a couple of videos up at the moment, but yeah, we've been talking for a while, and he's just a lovely, all-round, pretty awesome guy. So would you like to introduce yourself, Chris?
Well, yeah, that was kind of you to say, but you're only saying that because you don't know me that well yet, I guess.
Yeah, it's true.
Give it a month or two, and
yeah, we'll hate each other.
You'll be deleting this video, you know.
Yeah.
Happening.
Locking your account.
Yeah. That's the usual with me. Don't worry. So I'm Chris, Atheist Pastor. So short version is former evangelical leader. Everyone in the churches used to say I was going to be a pastor. If only they knew how it would turn out. So the name's a little bit tongue in cheek, and yeah, I'm just, my goal is to help as many people get out of religion comfortably as possible.
Yeah, you were supposed to be a pastor, but you turned out to be fettuccine.
That's very, very good.
I'm sorry. As I told you, I've had a very long day. Yeah, so this was Chris's idea for this question, and so I'll get Chris to introduce this idea.
Yeah, so where this came from was I try and talk to as many people as I can. I often get, ever since I came out as an atheist, I get contacted by a lot of people who I used to go to church with, or who know me from the church scene, and I guess that's where a lot of this came from. Recently, I was talking to a fairly good friend of mine, and he, for all intensive purposes, is an atheist, but he struggled to connect with the atheist community because of where he sits politically. Now, he's fairly conservative. He's what I'd say he's more of an economic conservative rather than on social issues. Like I think like pretty much everyone, he voted for marriage equality, and on a lot of social issues like that. He probably sits more on the progressive side, but he's sort of, because he's a Liberal voter and supporter, and for those who are overseas, our Liberal Party is the right-leaning party, so that hopefully that doesn't confuse too many people.
Yeah, It's like the
Confuses
Australian.
us.
Yeah, well, the Australian $2 coin is smaller than the Australian $1 coin, so you know.
Don't get me started on the 50-cent piece. But so he's struggling to engage with the atheist community because every time he's tried to, he feels that there's a lot of, I guess, Liberal Party bashing, especially because I guess with ScoMo being the PM and being fairly open as as an evangelical Christian.
Sorry.
It's a running joke between Jen, NotJah, and I. We'll catch you up later.
Somebody talks about Scott Morrison, and one of us says, "Asshole."
Mm.
Well, considering the topic, you might be saying it a lot tonight.
Very much likely.
We've said it now. I think we'll try and stay away from it.
But yeah, so I guess his view is he's struggling to engage with the atheist community, and he's even loath to call himself atheist, which seems strange to me. But it's because he feels that it's a bit of a bastion of the progressive left, which I've tried to explain to him. No, just come and engage. But that's the impression that's out there. So it sort of led me to the question: well, can you be an atheist and can you be conservative?
Oh, well, it is a good question. I think pretty much most of us on this panel would probably say yes. I have at least 3 people I know who are atheists and are very conservative. I even know a atheist who voted no in the gay marriage plebiscite. So I don't really have too much of an argument against that question. However, Jen, you brought up a really good point. Is like, can you be atheist? What was that point that you said just before we went live?
My point was, I don't see any problem with anyone who is conservative being an atheist, but I think in the current climate they may find it harder than somebody who is more left. If you're a centrist like I am, it's fairly easy, but I'm a left-leaning centrist anyway. But it's fairly easy when you're down to that sort of level. But as you start to go more right, you also take on some of those other ideologies which don't necessarily fit well with the rest of the atheist community, even though atheism is really only about one thing, whether or not you believe in a god. The community itself, especially as in the community that most of us interact with online, is more leftist leaning, is more progressive in general. I mean, not all of us, but a large proportion of us. So finding your niche in that area is a lot harder if you're more right wing.
Yeah,
I don't know if it's necessarily true though. It's not harder. It's just less common, maybe. Because I mean, my most strong male role model, my father, was always the atheist of the family, and he is relatively pretty damn right wing, like to a point where he's openly racist. And in his daily life, that's pretty normal. And I mean, he can interact with people of all sorts of religions, and most of them still have that same kind of right-wing point of view, which is something that I just have to deal with a lot with the way I work. You get to know these sorts of people.
Nerdy just asked the question, can you be a theist and left-wing?
absolutely.
Absolutely.
Definitely.
Oh yeah.
Jinx.
My dad was very left wing, very progressive in his thoughts, and a very strong Christian. So,
well,
it's certainly possible. You can certainly be that.
Yeah,
your form of Christian isn't Ken Ham's Christianity, though.
Yeah, you've also got God is Grey, like Brenda from God is Grey, very very progressive person. So yeah, there's lots of left-leaning theists. Even I was talking to a person the other day, and we were talking about something very similar, and we were talking about different types of churches, And I did say that the Uniting Church is very, very left-leaning.
Yes.
Yeah, like the whole thing is about coming together and being and uniting together to become a more Christian and bringing on the love and life of Christ.
Interesting fact, I was one of the first trans women in Australia to be married in the Uniting Church.
Oh, that's nice to know.
It would be even nicer if I was still married to the guy, but hey.
You can't win everything.
You can't win them all.
Yeah, so
well, funnily enough, with the Uniting Church, I actually remember sitting down just prior to the vote, and with a Uniting pastor, and she basically said, "Well, it's the second it gets passed, we'll be the first church to have same-sex marriages, or same-sex weddings." And I thought, okay, but also, I guess when you're looking at theists in general, the Islamic community in Australia is very much Labor voters, very, very much supports the left-leaning, to the point where I remember being at and I'm going to try not to dox myself in any way here, but it was just after Christchurch. There was a bit of a rally in the town I was, where we all it was a bit of a come together, and the local head of the Islamic Council actually got up and told everyone the Liberal Party's racist, vote Labor.
Oh, wow.
And I sort of went, oh, gee, okay. I didn't think it was appropriate at that kind of event, but I think if you look at, it's strange. I mean, I used to be in a worship team with he was a pastor at the time. I was still sort of coming up through the ranks, I guess, so to speak, in an evangelical church, and he was like to the left of the Greens. Like, he was on everything apart from, he sort of kept quiet on the prayers in Parliament and things like that, but on every issue he was about as far, like ridiculously far left. So
to
I
the
guess
point of almost being a massive bigot. Because I'm a big I think more in the sense of far right and far left are just on either side of the horseshoe. I don't see it as a line. I see it as a horseshoe, because if you go to the far right and the far left, and
they're
then you
almost
block
the
out,
same.
They're almost the same. Yeah.
This is why I prefer being a centrist, because either side of that extreme is just toxic. In my mind, it is. So.
And I guess that's part of where the I guess the impression that my friend and I've probably seen a little bit of it too, is that the far left is, I guess, trying to dominate, or I guess trying to claim the atheist movement as its own, in a sense.
I
think there's been a few, I guess, even online things that you've sort of seen. I guess the ACA rationality rules issue, that seemed to be a big sort of thing, and I guess there's a few others.
If you look at ultimately the ACA's response to that, it was a very centrist response in the end. I know the initial wasn't.
Absolutely.
It was very reactionary, but ultimately the way the atheist community came out, the ACA came out, was that they took a more centrist approach to the whole thing, and whilst I condemn the way they went about getting to that point, I am totally happy with the final outcome for that. It should have been what was done first, though, not the way they did it.
Yeah, it was almost like creating an issue for themselves where they didn't need to.
They did, and they didn't need to. That was the whole point. They would have been much better off not getting involved at all.
So I saw Nerdy's getting some really good questions in here. Does religion or lack thereof impact your political views more than other factors? That one's a good one. That's actually a good one, because probably the main thing for me, I could be totally wrong, so this is off the top of my head. Where you're born is probably the thing that's going to influence your political leaning the most, I would say, or at least where
the
you.
other thing is that a single religion might influence two different people in two different political directions. Like, whereas one person might take Christianity and see the right-wing version of it, another person might take it as, like the more socialist left-wing kind of version of it. You know what I mean? Like, there are plausible abilities to take both spectrums of that political side from that one religion, and I'm sure that's the same with many religions.
It's the same for atheism as well. I mean, we aren't,
of course, yeah.
We aren't defined through our atheism to think a particular way. That's the whole point of being an atheist.
Yeah.
So the other baggage we have comes from everything else. Some of it comes from the previous religions we may have been involved with, our upbringing, the areas we live in, the type of people.
It's also about our priorities as well.
Yeah. So,
like in life.
Yeah. So I think this concept that atheism is a left-wing sort of thing is actually false. But unfortunately, because we as a community tend to push not so much a leftist agenda, and there goes my dog, wonderful. Not so much a leftist agenda, but we tend to push an ideology that, especially within our group of creators through on YouTube and Twitter, of one that's for inclusion and for supporting all people. It does come off a lot to people who are coming into that we are very left-wing, but I don't think that's actually true. I think it's just a case that many of us hate seeing bigots try to get the upper hand.
Pinball, I just saw.
I want to take, sorry, can I?
No, there you go.
That assumes that all bigots are right-wing, though. Like,
No. I actually didn't mean. I'm sorry if that came across that way. No, I don't assume that all bigots are right-wing. Okay. There are definitely left-wingist bigots. I've had to deal with them at various times on Twitter, and they get ignored just as easily as the right-wing ones.
Yeah, TERFs, for example.
Yeah, that's right.
Well, TERFs think they're left-wing, but most of them are in bed with right-wingers anyway. So it's that horseshoe. You know, you've got these so-called far-left radical feminists who are hate-mongering, and we're leftists, but they're being funded by the Heritage Foundation. And you couldn't get more right-wing and Christian than that. So, yeah, there's your horseshoe just about touching.
Yeah,
that's the problem. When you get to that sort of level, you're prepared to get into bed with the people whose ideology might follow yours, but the rest of their ideology is completely different, just so that you can push your agenda. And that's what I hate. I hate people pushing those far agendas, because that's what ends up hurting people. It hurts the most people.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know, I guess, and I'll be pretty open. I've mentioned to you guys before, I do sit on the right side of politics. I'm probably what you'd call a centre-right. I am a Liberal Party voter. And no saying bad things about my good mate Stamo, but
I will refrain badly.
I couldn't help that. It was there. I had to take it.
Okay, so remember how I introduced you earlier? I take that all back. No, I'm joking.
and remember how I said, "Give it a month and you'll hate me."
Yeah, true.
So one thing that I guess those who are, and look, I'm very centrist. So when I say I'm right leaning, I'm right leaning on economic sort of stuff. So I guess trickle down economics, things along those lines. I'm very much a believer that we need to do something on climate change. When it comes to, I guess, a lot of the social issues, I proudly voted for marriage equality. So things like that. I'm probably more, I guess, possibly on the left on the social issues, but there's a lot of people who are, I guess, right-leaning who are very much on those. It's, I guess even a lot of the politicians. I remember Tim Wilson, who, I don't know if you guys know Tim Wilson. He's a South Australian Liberal Party, he's a member of Parliament. In his maiden speech, he actually used it to propose to his partner, and that was prior to the marriage plebiscite. So there is, I guess, sorry, I sort of deviated from what I was going to say, which is the far right, I guess, all the lunatics that are out there. Like those of us who are centre right and moderate, we can't stand them. We hate them probably as much as, I guess, the centre left would probably get frustrated at the Antifa of the world. And as far as I'm concerned, they're all one and the same. I mean, the Nazis, it's short for National Socialism, and socialists, on either end, I think they're basically putting the same thing out there. It's just it's a lot of divisiveness.
They just sugarcoat it differently.
Yeah, basically, it's
the same
it's the
hate,
horseshoe.
just coming from a different angle.
Yeah,
that's all.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, the horseshoe. That's what I keep saying. It's the horseshoe. Yeah.
So I guess that what I'd probably ask is, as a community,
Jimmy,
what can we do to bring in more of the, I guess, the people who are afraid to engage because of that impression, and it's an impression. I mean, like I said, I'm on the right, but I haven't really experienced any, apart from a few of the Facebook groups I got out of because it was just, every post was anti-liberal, or it was just, the same stuff that was posted on the Labor Party page or the Greens. But apart from that, I've just found the community to be very embracing.
Silence.
Yeah, no. As we probably just established several times during the stream, but without actually saying, is that extremes on both ends are just as toxic and awful and terrible as each other. And we need more centrist right voices such as yourself, Chris, because we're in danger as a general. At least for me, I'm in danger of surrounding myself with centrist left. And I do need to hear those voices that aren't centre left, but centre right. But I will reject every single
extreme voice.
Extremes like
yeah.
what? Yeah, Telltale says this all the time. Like, extremism doesn't matter which side you're coming from. Extremism is extremism, and we need to fight that. So,
no, I'm with you, Mara. The more voices we have around the center, the better. I don't want to be in an echo chamber. It's why I will listen to people, even if they've got what I consider an extreme point of view. I will still listen to them up until the point where I realize they are actually not listening to me either. If they refuse to listen to me, as I said to you earlier, Mara, that's it. I'm done. If all you want to do is lecture me, you can fuck off, basically. Sorry, you don't like swearing on your channel. Sorry, Mara.
Wait, did I hear that right? Did you just say Mara doesn't like swearing?
It's not that I don't mind swearing.
Bullshit.
No, I don't mind swearing. It's just I try on my recorded videos. I try not to swear. For one, for monetization reasons. Two, I do actually have children that come in and watch, and I want to at least respect that. Like, I'm happy with shit, crap, whatever, but there's certain words that, like, can't.
Like
this
the coconut.
Is Australia.
This is.
Yeah, I'm not overly keen on the C word, to be perfectly honest.
Fair enough.
It's got its
Jesus doesn't like potty
purpose.
mouth. So
I agree with you,
we've got to
NotJah.
respect Jesus.
There is definitely times when
because I'm the same where I don't
exactly
like when it's overly used. There are people that use it every second word kind of thing. Too much for me.
Isn't that the same with every word, though? I mean, I've cut back the amount of times I say arsehole on videos for that very reason, because it was starting to get a bit monotonous. So I started to police myself, because if I'm just saying it because people are enjoying counting me saying the word, then what was the point? It's losing all its effect. So I cut it back. I will use it when it's needed. I will use other words when they're needed too. Although I haven't put a good cockwomble in anywhere for a while. So
that's a beautiful word. I love that.
It is.
Word.
I love it. That is an amazing word. We have to thank the British for giving us womble so we could have the word cockwomble.
All right, we've kind of slightly off topic at the moment.
Sorry. That was probably
but
my
I'm going
fault.
to use
I
it at
will
least
take the
twice
blame
a
for
month.
It was definitely your fault, Jen. Don't lie.
Definitely my fault. Hey, I took a responsibility there. Don't downplay it.
I won't. So a couple of questions.
God, Mr. Atheist is in your chat.
I know.
That
Hi,
he
Jimmy.
is.
Hello.
Hi.
Which is kind of like, oh my goodness, but I'm not fangirling at all. No.
You know, he
You
might
should
not
have
be
seen
an
your
Australian,
face.
but I
The
would love to
moment,
have
the
his point of
moment
view on
Mero
this.
noticed him in the chat, you should have seen her fucking face.
You're gonna mean that, aren't you, NotJah?
As I just said, Mero, he may
I
not be
wasn't,
an
but I will.
Australian, but I would love his point of view on this.
Yeah, actually.
If he was willing to hop in for a little while.
All right. Okay. Jimmy, I'm going to send you a link because I'm being
Bullied.
bullied. Yeah. Okay. Hang on. Give me a moment. I'm going to tweet it at you, mate. If I can.
As a DM, I hope.
Yeah, that's true. I'm just trying to find it.
He's at home. He can't.
Aw, boo.
Don't boo him. He can't help that.
That's all right. Well, I'm running off limited internet myself, so I can understand. Yes, because internet in Australia is too fucking expensive. All right. So there was a question that someone brought up was along the lines of like does religion, like, because a lot of us come from a right-wing religion, do we swing way too far to the left? Does that make sense? Like, I know
I thought about that.
Yeah, because I've always been center left all my life. Maybe I'm probably more left now than I was before I started my YouTube channel. I've sort of gone, oh yeah, but yeah, is it sort of like, do we overcompensate? Do you think?
Yeah,
I think some people do. Like, it's the sort of person that would come up growing up with a lot of stereotypically, like, you imagine a Christian right-wing point of view that leads them into those typical conservative politics, but being instilled through the religion, you'd have that person might come out of it and then have that wild swing and then go too far, but it'd be different for people like, as you said, you explained your situation where you came sort of center left and you just moved a little bit more left after, having this, but you didn't have that big swing necessarily. So you might not have gone, as far as that other person. And I think it could be very situational like that, Silence.
Yeah, I was going to say I've seen it happen the other way as well, where you'll get people who, and I'm embarrassed to say this, but when I used to get people saved and bring them into the church, people who were very much on the progressive side, I guess, of their thoughts, especially university age people, they'd get into the church and all of a sudden they'd go to the far extreme, like the Fred Nile extreme on a lot of issues that maybe they didn't hold those views, but I think that people sort of feel that, look, politics it's a team sport in this country, unfortunately. And I think when people jump on to a different team, they go hard at it. I know that when I deconverted, I guess on the economic side of things, not a lot changed for me. I'd always been pro marriage equality, but I probably was, I was never vocal about that, and I sort of felt I couldn't be, but it was always something that I guess I felt inside me, and I knew that if a vote came, that's how I'd go. But then I have found my views on a few things, not a great many things, but certainly a few things have probably changed, just because I don't have that view of, it's God first and everything else second. If it were up to me, I'd get scripture ripped out of schools tomorrow. Whereas prior, I used to. Here's something I'm going to really embarrass myself here. I used to go and teach scripture in schools, and I used to take Kent Hovind DVDs with me.
Oh,
that
is
is
the absolute
embarrassing.
low. Yeah, that's the low point of my life. But
Oh,
yeah,
wow.
I guess
So
the good thing is
you were a young
no.
Earther?
Actually, I never really subscribed to it completely, the young earth side of things. Actually, that was part of what brought me out. When I was actually studying, I went to Bible college to do theology and ministry. And I actually, in one of our subjects, which was Introduction to Old Testament, I actually brought up, evolution and how can that fit in? Can Genesis be seen as something that's poetic? And had the tutor in the class, as well as pretty much the entire class, laugh at me. And I just thought, well, hang on, there's nothing, we're not learning anything here. This is just, we're just being preached to, and we're just going to be regurgitating things. So that actually led me to really looking into the basics of evolution, and the second I looked into it, it was obvious. It was absolutely blatant. So that was part of the black side, the backsliding spiral that took me out of religion.
I've actually heard a lot of people say that evolution was the reason why they left. It's probably for me the most second most common after reading the Bible.
Yeah, I find the evolution argument as being a really bad reason to leave religion.
Yeah, but it's also the when people realize, oh, I've been lied to. What other things have I been lied to about? Oh, I've been lied to about that. Oh, this is another thing I've been lied to. Oh, so it's a terrible argument, but then
it is.
Well, for Christianity,
it's a gateway,
though,
but it's a bad argument for it, because you can be Christian and still believe in evolution. I mean, that was my Christian faith. I
think
I was part of the Uniting Church. I was a progressive church that believes all this, but leaves space for God. So
yeah, but I think it's probably more for young Earth creation. So, like, it wouldn't be so much for you because they suggested that evolution is a thing. So they didn't lie to you about that. It's more, and I could be projecting, and I think Chris probably could respond to this better than me, but this is my hypothesis, is that if you can find a demonstrable falsehood in the teachings of your church, then that's when you start thinking. I don't think it's evolution that causes the would I be correct in that one?
Look, the way I came to it, and I guess part of my theology, you've got to remember, when I was studying, is from a very fundamentalist theology. So when I look at the Bible, I probably still look at it with the fundamentalist glasses on a little bit. But for me, so Jesus dies on a cross for everyone's sin, okay? And that's to atone for the original sin, which is when, Eve ate from the tree of knowledge. Now, if evolution's true and Genesis isn't true, then Eve never ate from the tree of knowledge, which means that, well, Jesus didn't need to die on the cross for that. So it almost, for me, that was the way I started thinking, and why I was trying to say, is it poetic? How can we fit it in? But then the more I studied it, and I think they're incompatible. I genuinely, it's probably the one thing that me and a Ken Ham or a Ken Hovind would agree on, that Christianity and evolution, I don't think, once you dig into the theology, I don't think they're compatible.
Yeah, I mean, even coming from a church that was pro-evolution, I'm kind of of the same opinion as you. My thing that actually pulled me away from the church was actually reading the Bible, because nothing else did. Even when I transitioned, the church was like, "No, that's fine. God doesn't hate you. You can get married in our church." And this was before. And point of fact, I got married before the gay marriage laws came in, because I was a woman, so I could get married in the church, so there was no problems there. So that was the things. If I was in a church that was progressive enough that didn't stop me from being who I was and being anything else, how do you walk away from that? Where do you find that? You sit down and you read the Bible and you go, well, hang on, they're not even following this. And if I actually follow this, it makes no sense. And how come there are so many different other Christian religions out there? If there is a God, they should all be the same. And that was what led me out. It's like, no, that doesn't make any sense.
Sorry, guys, I'm going to be rude for 2 seconds because one of my kids is making some noise in one of the rooms. So I'm just going to quickly mute myself. I'll be back in 1 second because she's 3 and she's a bit touchy at the moment. I think she's got some growth pain. So I'm just going to, I'll be 1 minute, guys.
Fair enough.
Okay,
Do what we got to do, man. Too easy.
Yeah. So, oh gosh. I'll just quickly go through the chat. I'm sure somebody's asked a question.
Ask the question.
Can somebody ask a question?
I like nerdy statement though. The problem is with me that anytime somebody mentions Jesus, I want to slap it out of them.
So maybe another question that's probably a good one, going back to the can Christians be, atheists be conservative? Let's talk about, because Chris is probably the person we should be asking, but he's away. But like, there's 2 different types of conservatism. We've got economic conservatism and and social conservatism. And I think personally, obviously there are definitely atheists out there that are very socially conservative and very social and economically as well. And to me, a lot of conservative outlooks on life have a lot of roots in religion. Would I be incorrect in making that statement? Because, like, all right, for example, let's look at abortion.
Okay.
So abortion, pro-choice seems to be very much a left.
Why don't you hold it until Chris is back and then you can start it again?
All right, we'll do that.
False alarm, guys. Everything was okay. Bad dream. And her brother was picking on her in a dream. So
fair
we're
enough.
all
So
did you give her a good hug?
good. I didn't get too close. It was just a very quick pat because you don't, with a 3-year-old, you just don't want to risk waking them up.
Oh, she was that's right. It wasn't.
It's not worth it. Trust me.
Oh no, I know that. I got 2 daughters. I remember.
Yep.
So my question was something about something. What was my question? Remember, I've had a 12-hour shift, guys.
yeah.
It's 9:30 and I've been awake since like.
You were talking about the differences between conservative monetary policy and conservative
social
aspects.
Yeah. So my hypothesis is that a lot of the social aspects of conservatism is rooted in religion. So I was trying to say that the abortion thing, for example, if you look at it, a lot of left-leaning people are pro-choice. There are obviously there probably will be a lot of left-leaning people who are pro-life / pro-birth. But that for me is rooted in the whole idea that it's a punishment for women. If she has sex, it's like a slut-shaming kind of thing. I was wondering, like, because there's a lot, if that's my point of view, my thought process is that a lot of conservative things socially tend to come from a religious background. Would you agree with me on that one? And do you think that's compatible with atheism?
It absolutely. I think with social issues, the religious right absolutely dominates. But keep in mind, it's not always the case. I'm in New South Wales, and we just passed abortion laws in New South Wales, and it was spearheaded by our Liberal Premier. So, and look, realistically, it hasn't made too much of a difference because there was always ways it could happen where so long as doctors agreed. It was just more formalising it, and there was the usual protesters, and the protesters were basically all organised by the church. But I think when it came down to it, there was 2 members of the Liberal Party who were particularly vocal about it. unfortunately, we've got Mark Latham in Parliament down here. He was particularly vocal about it. Yeah, it's... Yeah.
Why is that man still like? Why? Just why?
It's I hate to get nasty with politics, but I've met Mark Latham I've met a lot of politicians. I'm actually doing a politics major at university at the moment, and
Okay.
I know a lot of politicians, and I've worked with politicians, and without doxing myself, met a lot of people on both sides. And Mark Latham, I can genuinely say, is one of the biggest wankers you'll ever meet. He is Mark Latham will go wherever he thinks people will vote for him, whether he believes it or not. He's a goose. He's an absolute just goose of a human being.
Well, colour me surprised.
Yeah.
I was going to say, it's funny how I've never
shocking.
met the guy, but I somehow could just sort of tell that was the sort of guy he was.
Yeah.
It's
not
not
many
like
people with
he
a
didn't
punchable face.
telegraph that to everyone.
Yeah, because like, for example, on the chat, DB Cisco says, my atheism has nothing to do with my stance on any of these issues. Seems I'm in the minority here. But that was my question. Like, do you think that conservative social policies have its roots in religion? Like,
Yes.
Yeah, you think so? I would agree with you on that one. It's
Yeah, I'd
not.
agree.
It's not that it's anti. Like, atheists can't be socially conservative. So it would be compatible with atheism to be able to say, I don't support gay marriage. But when you often ask the one question is like, why? Why do you not support gay marriage? And I don't think I've ever heard an argument that's anti-gay marriage that has nothing to do with religion. So
I have a couple of times, but mainly from older people. I think older people who just, they're not open to change. I mean, if you want biblical marriage, then we're adding in, you can have concubines, you can have slaves. It's, biblical marriage isn't between a man and a woman, and that's a misconception that's out there that's sort of perpetrated by the religious right. The majority of the loud voices.
Biblical marriage is a bond between a man and as many women as he can afford to keep.
Yeah,
it is. It is. Well, it's even good old Abraham. He had Sarah, he had Hagar. And that's just the ones we know about. So, there was there's all kinds of horrible. The Old Testament. It's just, if you ever read the Old Testament from front to back, it is weird. It's weird.
Oh, yeah.
It's, you can tell it was written by goat herders in in the Bronze or in the Iron Age or Stone Age or whatever.
If we go back to evolution, though, would it be safer to say that a belief in evolution and the fact that we are all related to other animals and we are just animals and we have the same sort of traits that they do is one of the reasons it perhaps makes it easier to have a more forward-thinking social policy? Because if you see us as being just as other animals and we can see the things that happening within other animals that happen with us, it is easier to have compassion for those elements when you're opposing that to having a religious bent where everything is ordained by a god. And I think I said that as clear as freaking mud.
I think so.
I think I get where you're coming from.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
Well, if we evolved, we weren't created in God's image, were we?
No.
So once again, that it all of a sudden, if you're putting a lot of crosses through the very beginning and the foundations of the Bible, or any religion, you can go to pretty much any creation myth, and evolution really isn't compatible with anything.
Yeah.
Out of the ones I've studied, at least, anyway.
Yeah. Like the whole, you could go, it was just Garden of Eden was an analogy, excuse me, but it's kind of tears down the core belief of Christianity, because Jesus died on the cross to forgive us for the sins of Adam and Eve. But if Adam and Eve didn't exist, then why did Jesus die on the cross? So, like, it just absolutely annihilates.
More than that is how many, like, because Jesus in the Bible refers to that event as something that had actually happened. So it sort of negates the ability for Christians to really go and say it was an analogy in any right.
Yeah. So, yeah, evolution. I think with evolution, it's one of those things that it's like you'll have to do quite a lot of mental gymnastics to be able to agree with the with your any religion, as you were saying, Chris, over but then again, for me, like when I was growing up, I never believed that that the ark was a thing. I always knew it was a parable or an analogy. I remember I have been awake for a very long time.
We forgive you, Maro. You know you're loved.
I think I need another beer.
I don't forgive her.
Oh, yes. Probably should, mate.
Yeah, I should so be drinking scotch right now.
Yeah, I really need to go.
I wouldn't be able to control myself.
Go get a beer.
You know what it's like when I drink scotch in a stream.
Yeah, no, please no. What was I saying? Maybe I should go get a beer. Can you guys entertain people? I'm going to go get a beer.
Get me one?
Oh, yeah.
I'll just throw it through
pass
the
it.
screen.
I was going to pass it through the screen the way it passed my name.
Yeah, all right. I'll be back in a moment. See you in a bit.
Right.
No worries.
And I'm just going to say to all the Americans who are out there watching, it's easy for us Aussies to have beer because our beer is the best in the world by a long
And
way.
it's cold.
Yeah.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah.
Dude, I had some American beer the other night and it was so shit, it fucking literally made me sick. Like, it was disgusting.
That's how I
don't
feel
know how
about
the
any
fuck
beer.
they drink
you know
that
that,
shit.
don't you?
The only
Yeah, but
exception is Blue Moon. Actually, I'll come out and say Blue Moon is probably the one acceptable American beer, and only because you can dunk orange in it. Yeah, you dunk orange in it. It's awesome.
So what do you drink?
I'll have to give it a go.
Yeah, like how you have a Corona with a lemon? You have a Blue Moon with orange in it, and for some weird reason, it really works. It's really good.
Very
That
cool.
actually
All right.
sounds kind of nice. Oh,
What?
wow. I can't believe I'm saying that about a beer.
Blue Moon. American beer.
This one. This
What
is
is
an
it?
amazing one. Wakachangi.
Wakachang.
Yeah, it's quite nice beer. It is actually quite nice
but
beer.
you know I don't like beer, so I...
Yeah, you're wrong.
You're just wrong.
You're just wrong. Hey, I like scotch. Don't hassle me.
But you gotta love the Australian on YouTube as a content creator showing off a Kiwi beer that she's drinking.
Oh, for fuck's sake, don't drink Kiwi
just
beer.
after we were saying how good Australian beer is too.
But one of my favorite things
admittedly, that's a good beer.
One of my favorite things about this is Wakachangi was voted the beer with the best indoor-outdoor flow at the 2018 Wakachangi Beer and Furniture Awards. So it came first in its own competition. And our brewer Colin says this could be a winner at the International Beer Awards next year. So they just rip into themselves.
It's got a lot of great bullshit written on it for marketing.
Yeah.
It's done. They've done well.
At the very least, you should buy it just to read the carton. It's hilarious.
And it's actually not a novelty and a good beer.
Admit, I haven't tried drinking beer for years, and I never really liked it in the past. But then again, when you're younger and you drink beer, you buy cheap shit and you drink it.
Yeah, and you don't realize.
Yeah, you don't realize that there are actually decent beers and shit ones. So. Same with Scott.
Okay,
I remember 17 and Passion Pop.
Oh wow, yeah, I've drunk Passion Pop.
It cost about $3 a bottle, and it was terrible, but it got us pretty.
It got you there.
So,
I've been there.
I've got
been
us
there.
yeah.
We all have.
Worst thing I ever did was, you know
Yeah,
how
never
you used to
discovered
buy the little
Nervardia illusion.
alcoholic essences for cooking?
Oh,
They're about
yeah.
68% proof. We used to buy them
Yeah.
and mix them directly with cool drink.
Yeah, that's always a good one.
That makes you violently ill, especially
Yeah.
if you mix it with red cream soda.
Trust a panel of Australians
creamy
that
soda.
start talking about alcohol.
Also, talking about ways
Hell
to get drunk on the cheap.
Hey,
Oh, we haven't
the stereotype,
gone to
aren't we?
Goon. We haven't gone to Goon.
We haven't gone to Goon. We've all slept on the Goon bag pillow though. So. All right, so let's get back on track. I don't know.
Now they're all drunk.
I have no idea where we're at before you wandered off to get beer because we talked about beer.
Yeah, I heard. Yeah. So, okay. So we talked about how conservative thought processes and a social construct may be influenced by religion. What about because Chris, you're conservative in the sense of an economic point of view. Do you think that might have an influence on people? Because our beloved leader is a prosperity gospel preacher, to which I think is total bullshit. But
don't get me started on that. It's I could talk for hours on the good old prosperity gospel, but
I have to ask, where is the shark when we need it?
The shark?
Yeah. It's a reference to Harold Holt.
Oh, yeah.
How the fuck did you not get that?
I've heard of sporting.
Okay, I think we should probably explain why. People who are in the chat, Harold Holt was an Australian Prime Minister. He was a PM, yeah.
For 6 months.
For 6 months.
Whopping term.
It was a whopping term. However, I think Abbott only was second shortest to Harold Holt, only because Harold Holt drowned.
Well, no, he went for a swim and never came back. We actually don't know what happened to him.
We don't know what happened.
We don't know, but we don't. He went missing, never came back, and now that there is a pool called Harold Holt's something or other pool. There is a pool named after him.
Which is typically
hilarious.
You have a prime minister dying, you name a swimming pool after them.
No, it'd be worse. It'd be worse if they named the beach after him.
Yeah. Oh, that would have been amazing. That would have been so awesome.
So here's the funny thing, and this is something that I guess from someone who's on the right side of politics is interesting with ScoMo. I guess I view him in a different way to, I'm going to assume, everyone else here. He definitely has those in his personal life, the religious views, but I haven't actually seen it cross over too much into politics. I think at times he's pretty careful to keep it separate. I remember before the election when all the camera crews went into his church. The reason that happened was because it was he was sort of refusing to talk about the church, and people were linking him with Hillsong and not understanding what the church was. So that's why they invited them in. So I think the only thing I've ever seen him really, I guess, where religions come into it is when he abstained from the same-sex marriage vote.
He said a few things that are a bit despicable about the LGBTQ plus community.
Okay, I haven't seen that.
Since being Prime Minister.
Okay.
And he's discussed the possibility of putting in policies in place that would be detrimental towards people in the LGBTQ plus community. So yeah, it's certainly his religious ideas do creep into his politics. Whether or not though he'll get the traction that he'd want with anything like that, because I think there's a lot of people within his party who don't hold his same opinions. So
yeah,
the Liberal Party is centre right moderate.
What was that, Nacho?
I was just thinking the thing I dislike about ScoMo is less about that and more about his economics and his, like, you know, values on things like climate change and stuff like that. And, how his policies implemented are impacting things on those scales. Like, if he came out in a hardcore religious way as acting PM, like, I'm pretty sure even a lot of Christians would go, wait, what the fuck? Because they won't share the same kind of Christian. And that's just not something we really see here. So that's not, you know, and I grant that he will act in a way that is biased or that his opinions will be shaped by his religion.
Yeah.
That's unfortunate, but that's just kind of the way democracy works. And it's annoying, but that's, you know, it's going to be the same if it's an atheist PM that might have, you know, no interest in, you know, giving extra funding to such and such private schools that are Christian or whatever the hell the issue might be. You know what I mean? Like, then it goes our way. You know what I mean? Like, I think that goes more down to what the mass of the people believe. And at the moment, atheism isn't the mass of the people.
See, it's funny that the Christian view, because I remember when I was going through Bible college, what they told us was 10% of Australians are active churchgoers. And you get a lot of people who'll tick the, you know, the Church of England or the Anglican or the Catholic on the census. But, you know, I mean, my parents have always ticked it. And I can tell you, I don't think my father's ever been into a church in his life. And you know, probably the same for my mother, apart from once or twice. So it's, I think a problem we've got in Australia is we've got a lot of people who probably are atheists, but because I think of our attitude and our laid back nature, we don't have that big sort of community. But funny, I don't want to, I guess, I want to be careful here because I don't want to do the get into political arguments, but something, and this is something that I notice, and I've got my bias, obviously, but climate change, I find that ScoMo does get smashed on climate change a fair bit, but we've actually, I think the government put $11 billion into renewables last year, and actually they're ahead of the Paris Agreement. So I think that there's a lot of stuff, and this is, I put this down to the media, and I try and avoid the media on both sides, because I think that media's just become opinion pieces now rather than reporting facts. And yeah, you jump onto something like a Sky News and they're pushing a far-right conservative agenda. You jump onto something like, you know, ABC or The Guardian, and it's the other way.
I don't know what the ABC's agenda is now. It's absolutely retarded. No, I'm not going to talk about Q&A. No, I'm going to do a video about
it. I can't watch that show anymore. It upsets me.
Oh, yeah.
It triggers me.
It got bad.
Yeah.
It triggered me.
Yeah, Jen, please don't use that R word. That is actually one of the words that I do not accept on my channel.
I apologize.
For those of you who don't know, I work with people with disabilities, so that's like the big thing for me. That's like the N word for me is the R word. So yeah.
So that's okay. You know, I don't mean it that way.
Oh, I know. I'm just.
But yes, I totally get you, and I will avoid it.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting how the right-wing Christians have against global warming. I really don't understand that, actually. Why do Christians find global warming to be a bad thing?
Because Jesus is coming back. It doesn't matter.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
that's and it's only a very small portion of the Christian right that is like that. Most people on the right of politics accept climate change, and it's just I think what you get is you get two extremes. So you get the extreme right that will come out and say, no, there's nothing to see here. You know, guys like Malcolm Roberts and you know who his views are. No, climate change is all made up. There's nothing going on. And then you'll get the the far left who are saying the world's going to end tomorrow if we don't do anything. And realistically, the truth is somewhere in the middle.
Yeah.
Man-made climate change is absolutely a thing. Is it part of a global warming cycle? Yeah, probably, because we've seen them throughout human history. But that being said, I ain't a scientist. I can sort of look at the historical side of things, but I think that the truth is probably in the middle.
The problem with climate change as an issue is it's always an issue that's down the track. I mean, it's getting closer to it being a huge, enormous, and it is starting to be a huge, enormous problem for us now. But it's always been an issue that's down the track. And you try and get politicians to think of issues that are things that we're going to have a long-term run at, and they can't do it because what they care about is what they can perceivably do in the next term and possibly the term after that, because there's a very good chance they won't be around after that.
Yeah.
So that they don't think any further in advance. They don't care about further in advance because there's no political return on that.
I want to change the subject a little bit, if you don't mind. There is a very interesting thing going on. Oh, not that one. Hi. There's a very interesting conversation going on between, excuse me, Maya Adkison, I'm sorry if I pronounce your name incorrectly, and DB Cisco, where DB Cisco is saying that this is a loaded conversation, a loaded topic, and Maya is saying that it's not, because it's important to understand why people think the way they do. Assuming is dangerous, it is important for one to address topics that seem foreign to them, which is, by the way, thank you very much, both of you, for this really interesting conversation I in the side chat, and I wanted to bring this one up because it is a loaded question. Can atheists be conservative? But what's your responses to those comments? Where is it a loaded question, or are we talking about a good thing? Because I've been reading this side chat, and it's really, really interesting to see.
Well, isn't that saying it like it's one of those ones that are going to catch you up or something? Like, we're not here going, no, of course they can't be, and talking a bunch of bullshit like that. Like, we basically established that, well, yeah, of course they can. So that kind of negates the argument of whether it's loaded or not, because that's the only way it being a loaded question would make a fucking difference. Hey DB, by the way, it's good to see you. I haven't seen you in a long time.
Yeah, so I would agree with you on that one, Nacho. It is it's an interesting point, though.
It's thought provoking. That's the point of this, is to be thought provoking and go down this track of, like that. It's like philosophy. You set out a question and you go off and think about it.
Because DB does say atheism is not a social or political or scientific position, and it's not. It's true, but there seems to be a correlation between atheism, and seems like, obviously you'll find pure scientific denying atheists out there, but it does seem that the more scientifically engaged a person is, the more likely they are to be an atheist. And also there's a correlation between being left-leaning and being scientifically literate as well. As I said, it's not perfect.
I think you're going to get arguments about that.
I really will. That's what I'm saying. It seems. Seems is the main thing.
I think it seems to us that way because we are partly in an echo chamber.
That's true.
There is an awful lot of people who are more left-leaning within our circle than there are people who are right-leaning, which is a shame because we need more right voices. If for nothing else than to keep ourselves sharper with our argument and keep us honest. I mean, as atheists, we value that honesty. So if we can have somebody who's a bit more right, who isn't an asshole, right, come to us and say, look, you're wrong, and this is why, and we can look at that and go, oh shit, maybe I am wrong. That's a good thing.
Yeah.
And likewise, you need that balance of the right to overcome that far left that that is part
Right.
of atheism as well.
Yeah,
So
and
we need that balance. Otherwise, we become very one-sided and a much easier target.
mm,
And I think that's one of the things when it comes to politics is you don't want to have, I guess, atheist representation only on one side. You do want atheist representation on both sides. And I think it's something that we will struggle with for a while because, like I said, politics does seem to be a team sport. And you know, the Christian right has certainly latched on to one side, and I guess you've got the progressives on the other. But to give you an example, one case study that I saw during the federal election was we had a candidate who was a Liberal candidate who was a very much an out atheist, running up against a Labor candidate who was very much a church-going person who was opening a Christian school while this, the election cycle was happening. Now, the religious right backed the atheist because of the party they were with, whereas the progressive, or I guess more of the atheist side in that community, backed the Labor member, even though I guess when it came to the issues that would be important to atheists, as far as separation of church and state, it could be argued that maybe they should have flipped, because it's when you've got the Christian right backing someone who, if they're an atheist, is probably not going to be friendly to their agenda, especially on social issues.
Yeah.
So it's an interesting sort of thing, but I think ultimately, I think even the fact that we're all here having a conversation, and I am that right-leaning person. It's a very friendly, respectful conversation where we all find very, very common ground, especially on the fact that there is no God.
Yeah,
exactly.
Well, we're pretty sure.
I think we find common ground elsewhere as well, because we are all fairly centrist here, with our leanings for how the rest of it goes. So we actually are almost an echo chamber in this little discussion group.
Yeah. The thing is, I think back to a guy that I know at uni who thinks that Trump is the best thing in the world. He's very, pro small government, very anti-abortion. He's probably the person that you would think that I would hate. And I love this guy because he's also a sweetheart and a kind, caring, and loving guy. And we need to, we do need to sort of take a step back and go, we might fundamentally disagree on 95% of our social issues, but you're a good person and I'm not going to hate you for that. And it's been really nice talking to him and having that in the discussions that I have with him. I told him last time, one of the last times I saw him, I told him that we should decriminalize all drugs, or most drugs. I'm still a bit iffy when it comes to ice. And rather than having it as a part of the criminal code, we should have it as a healthcare thing, because addiction is a healthcare thing, not a criminal thing. And I talked to him and I said about Portugal, because Portugal did that and their drug use plummeted, absolutely was one of the highest in Europe and down to one of the lowest in Europe. Because one of the first things that happened is that they're not doing police raids on these people who are, they're looking after they don't have to put as much effort towards arresting things in the penalization. Yeah, that's true. And he was like, no, I don't believe you. And I was like, you've got to check it out. And he's like, and I doubt he would have, but at least I said that. At least I was able to go, this is what happened in Portugal. You should try and check it out, because decriminalizing all drugs actually ended up stopping drug use in Portugal. So we need to not only do we need to break our echo chambers and our bubbles, but we also need to break theirs. Yeah. So anyway, I don't know. That was
agree.
my
No,
Yeah,
you're
nailed
dead
it.
on. You're
Yeah,
right.
You're
nailed it.
right.
echo chamber right
And then
there.
this is
Let's
why,
break the
like,
echo chambers.
the concept of the coming together of the two different opposing views is to break it down and try and find a way to work together with our different points of view. You know, it's not always necessarily about going and convincing them that you're right or them convincing you that they're right. It's about, okay, well, this is where we both stand. How can we work together, you know, to achieve this common goal?
Mm.
You know, like that's where we as a humanity, that's where we shine, in good and in bad, you know.
Yeah. It's just, the thing is, I have one of my biggest problems that I have in every single group is that we all believe that we are right, black and white. It is very rare for us to actually look at nuance, because very rarely we do that. If you know what I mean, like,
Yeah.
So, like, the world is never black and white.
Oh,
The world,
definitely.
yeah,
Everything is shades of grey.
yeah, and it's
Shout
really,
out for Mac.
yeah. Yeah, so my thing that I've often heard lots of people go, you're wrong and blah blah blah, and it's black and white, and I'm like, no, but what about this, or what about that? Like, you know, something that we can all agree on is killing someone is a bad thing to do. But then you go, but what if this person is being abused continuously, and they're all and they're trying to get away, and this person is going to kill them? Is it okay for them to kill them? Like, you know, there's, and then once you start going into nuance, you start realizing that there's no such thing as black and white. And I keep coming back to abortion because I think this is perfect. Is people pro-lifers are like, it's never right unless it's a woman is going to die, and even some pro-lifers are like, no, if the woman is going to die, she shouldn't abort either, which makes zero sense to me. But I'm like, well, what if she has severe epilepsy, and this child is going to come out like, what? Yeah, like, what if the disease that she has is going to kill her and her child, or causes a severe issue? Or what if she has schizophrenia? Like, schizophrenia is not going to kill anyone, but it's going to make her life a living hell and the child's life a living hell. Is like,
What
is
if
that
the child is a product of rape and you are forcing her to go through 9 months of reliving that rape?
exactly?
What
Or
they usually miss in the discussion is that pro-choice is still pro-life.
yeah, exactly.
Because it's not a one or the other. We're not saying kill all babies. We're saying we are pro-choice, but we would rather they kept the baby if at all possible. Is generally the position of most people on the abortion issue. It's not open slather, let's get an abortion. Most of us who are pro-abortion, who are pro-choice, not pro-abortion, it's pro-choice, would be horrified with people using abortion as a form of contraception.
Oh, I would be too. And if you're using abortion as a form of contraception, I condemn you. I condemn you. And you need to learn how to use a condom. But then again, you've got people who have to kind of use that because they can't get contraceptive care.
Yeah.
So, like,
well, most of those people happen to be the religious, which is why there are more abortions in highly religious areas than there are in more secular areas.
Yeah.
So part of that's a sex education thing as well, I think. But it's also the case that if you discourage the use of proper contraception, you have more unwanted pregnancies. Simple correlation. So, hey, Catholics, allow contraception and have less abortions.
Seem to have lost Chris.
Yeah, his net is doing odd things.
Okay. Well, we will continue talking.
Okay, hold up. You've got Chris on your channel, and you haven't even modded him in your fucking side chat. You're a terrible host.
What's wrong with you?
You're a terrible host. What is wrong with you? What an awful person.
He's right there, Atheist Pastor. My net is doing odd things.
I am using it. I'm doing that. I don't think he's even commented on my side chat. So please,
lies. I'm looking at it right now.
Well, I've just modded him. To be fair, I didn't mod Jimmy. So
it was really cool actually seeing Jimmy pop in his little special box.
He'll never come back now, Mary. You're done.
No, I know.
That was awesome, though. It was so nice to see him in your chat.
Yeah, it was pretty cool.
That was brilliant. It's so sad he wasn't in a position where he could come on.
Yeah.
Hey, you know he would. So you're gonna have to do that.
Jen, I hate you. So Chris is coming back in. All right, go get a new beer.
It's easy for him. If we want to go and get a beer, we have to leave this blank spot where we were.
Yeah, I'm still.
I have to drive to the shop if I want to go and get a beer.
I don't. I have a fridge.
I have a fridge too. There's just no beer in it.
Yeah, because you hate beer. We've discovered that.
There is scotch in the cupboard though, and Pepsi in the fridge, so I could have a scotch and Pepsi. We are out of ice though. So. Yeah, that was my fault. I meant to buy it and I forgot. So yeah.
You buy ice? Who buys ice?
Who buys ice?
I do when I'm lazy and I haven't refilled all the ice things.
How are you? But
why are you buying ice? This is wrong on so many levels.
It's one of those things. It's like you hit summer and I haven't frozen any ice in the freezer, and now I have to find out where all the ice trays are so I can do ice, and I've got no idea where they are. So
you can buy them for you can buy like 2 or 3 for $1.
I know, but I've got about 7 or 8 of them. So it's like I need to find them so that I can use them. I pretty sure my daughter nicked a couple of them because there's a little bar fridge in her bedroom and then she's freezing ice in her own room. So
fair enough.
Which is cool. She gives it to the dog because he likes chewing out bits of ice.
That's cute.
He's adorable.
Yeah. I have ice cube making things that are actually a shot glass.
Why are you talking about having sex in the side channel?
That's a good question. Who are we talking about? And when can we having sex is not equal to having a child. Oh, I think they're still talking about the abortion thing.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, okay.
I've moved on.
To beer and ice.
We've gone back to alcohol.
How is that? That every time, yeah, exactly. We're going straight back to alcohol. We are so fucking Australian.
Yeah, we're Australian, guys.
This is Australia.
Okay. So
the countryside, Australia.
Yes, a condom wouldn't make any difference to my ability to make crotch fruits.
Nerdy, that's an amazing. That is beautiful. I'm showing.
Yeah, I had to say it once. I read it. I had to speak it. That was fun to say
beautiful.
Too.
Well, so my
well done,
ability.
Nerdy.
Tria says, I didn't know a condom existed until I was 19. And Critical goes, Tria, that is very wrong. And that is incredibly wrong. That's very, very wrong.
Unfortunate. Definitely unfortunate.
I knew they existed.
Mike doesn't want to know.
Yeah. No, it's... We could talk about
so you guys...
Sorry,
you had Mr. Atheist here, and I just want to point out that God himself dropped into my chat. So
Really?
Oh.
Really?
Yep.
Which one have we got?
God, the good one. God,
Oh,
the good
yeah.
Which one?
one. Yeah.
God,
The actual
The good one.
The one who
God,
wears
the
a
good
mask.
one.
God, the good one. All right, nice. So how about?
He's hilarious. Have you actually been on a stream with him?
No.
I don't know if I've joined him in a stream, but
He has. I was
I've been on
Angie's
his chats,
stream
side
last
chat.
weekend, in and around where my video premiered. If you actually watch her stream, we are doing running commentary on my video at the same time as my video premiere. And he joined us afterwards, and he is absolutely hilarious.
Fair enough.
It was a lot of fun. He's
Hey,
so good.
Chris.
So much fun.
Hello.
Hey.
So
So-
nice.
Hey, mate.
That was a lot of fun. So my iPad decided to do something crazy, so I had to go and dig out my laptop, plug it in, get it all set up, and first world problems.
Yeah.
Your
Oh,
video
that's-
looks better.
At least you
actually,
got
on
it.
your
You're
laptop.
back.
Yeah. You're also
It looks pretty good.
you're slightly off center.
Yep,
And
give me
my-
2
Oh,
seconds.
Jesus.
Yeah, I'm one of those
Picky.
Yeah,
people.
Fucking hell.
right.
NotJah, were there any questions or comments that you saw in your side chat that's been interesting?
No, most are just going like buffering. And I'm like, yeah, fuck you. Go over to Mary's fucking stream. Like, and then go to her stream.
And like my stream as well, everyone.
Yeah, I like it too. Yeah, I like it too.
Liking is good.
But yeah, I got to work some shit out. I don't know what the fuck is wrong with my world, but nothing works on my side. So this is why I don't do anything. You know,
I think
need
it
to-
might be in our interest to, if we're going to dual stream ever again, maybe set up a proper dual streaming thing so we don't have to do it that way.
Yeah.
you know, I still also need to work out how to fucking stream, like get my shit working, because like that's pretty important as well.
Yeah,
Usually.
I'll grant you that.
Okay, we were talking about economic conservatism, and Chris, I wanted to ask you about. I know you said don't get me started. I'd like to wrap this up in about half an hour.
Oh yeah, we were talking about condoms. Wrapping it up.
Yeah, wrap it up. I'd like to wrap this up in about half an hour.
Don't you roll them up? You don't really wrap them up.
Everyone, mute your mics. Chris, go on about prosperity gospel.
Oh,
Oh,
Half an hour.
well, what I want you
Jesus.
to know is that Jesus has trusted you as the custodian of finances, and by blessing others, you are going to be blessed. And when you sow into the kingdom, it will come back to you tenfold. So yeah, there's a little bit of prosperity gospel for you. It's okay. So prosperity gospel, it is when you're in it, you don't realise what
Crazy?
a con it is.
sorry.
Yeah. By the
Well,
way,
sorry.
I am planning on doing a video on this. But now that I've got you here to talk about it, I'll just cut what you say and then
You just rip this,
re-upload
Can you make him full screen? Like-
Yeah, I'll make you full screen.
Oh, okay.
All right. Go on, Chris.
You'll lose viewers. Don't do that. Yeah, so as I was coming through the churches, and it's funny with all the prosperity side of things. One of the things that I was given to do regularly was the tithe talk, and the tithe talk is, even though it's only a few minutes, it's actually one of the more important ones, because that's how the churches make their money. And there's techniques and things. When I was at Bible college, there was a lot of techniques, and there was a course on it, and things that they put in it, which is what's called neuro-linguistic programming. Now, what neuro-linguistic programming is, that's where you use different tones in your voice and different techniques, and it's almost a form of mild hypnosis for people. So when you walk into and I'm going to use charismatic churches, so I'll use, I didn't go to Hillsong, but I'll use Hillsong as an example, because I think most people are probably familiar. You walk into a Hillsong church, and it starts off with very, everyone's excited, the hands are in the air, it's, yeah, we love you, Jesus, and they get people real pumped up, so that adrenaline kicks in. The next song is similar, and then they drop it down a tone to something that's, still got a bit of, we're partying, but we're toning it down. Then all of a sudden they go into the tithe talk, where there's soft music, very reflective music, and a lot of thank you, Jesus, and worship you, we love you, Jesus, and all that bringing people right down. And that's when the tithe or the that talk will come into place, which is generally along the lines of, well, everyone's different depending on the style, but when I used to do it, and I'm embarrassed coming back and saying this because I look at it now and I've got issues, but at the time I was very genuine when I did it. I would talk about how by investing in God, it's you'll be blessed because He'll trust you with His money, and He'll trust you with His blessings, and He'll ensure that you get more because He knows you'll do the right thing with it. And you normally have a bit of a story in there and a lot of thank you, Jesus, and sort of prayerful things, and that's how the tithe part of it worked. But it's very much a systematic thing, regardless of what evangelical church you go to. It's the same process, and if anyone doesn't believe me, if you really want to be cruel to yourself, go and watch a Hillsong video and watch the whole thing, and you'll see exactly the way that they do it. So the thoughts behind the prosperity gospel it comes from Genesis, where they talk about a tithe, which a tithe actually means a tenth, and it is expected that you will give a tenth, and it used to be a tenth of the harvest that would, or the grain that would, sit there for that just in case, and it's sort of been twisted a bit into give to the church, and they'll make sure that you're blessed and you're rich, and bullshit sort of thing. So that's the basics of it. You probably don't want me to go on for half an hour about it, but and look, it's a lot of preachers like to do the tithe talk. I remember one of the first ones I did, and it was I spoke about how it was a story that had actually happened to me, where I was pretty skint at the time, and what had happened was I'd planned on taking the family to the football, and sort of had $50 put aside for that, and when I went to go and pay for the tickets, it knocked it back, and I realised that I had it was a World Vision sponsorship, and the money for that had come out, and how I was angry at the time. But then I realised, well, hang on a second, there's more important things than going to football and so on. Anyway, that night after the service, I probably had about 5 people come up to me and give me $50 because God had told them to. And I'd mentioned it to someone else who was in leadership there, and their comment was, well, you probably want to use that one again. And it wasn't tongue in cheek. It was very much serious. And I'm like, oh, okay. So it's there's a lot of bullshit at the top of the prosperity churches. And look, there's some genuine people too. I know a lot of people who are pastors, and they wouldn't have a bad bone in their body. It's they probably willfully ignore a lot of the Bible, but they genuinely do believe what they're talking about. So I'm always a little bit wary. I don't want to smash them too much, because I'm hoping that they do what I did and realise it's rubbish. And I want to say bless you there, Nervardia, but
Thank you.
I'll say gesundheit.
Gracias, señor. Salud in español.
Choice in Kiwi. But yeah, so that's where it's the thinking behind the prosperity gospel comes. But I think we need to be very careful not to smash people too much on it, because a lot of the people who buy into prosperity gospel are the ones who are actually donating into it. That's why you've got the mega churches. I remember when the church I was at, or one of the churches I was at, they wanted to do a renovation and a few other things, and basically for probably 2 months we had, all we heard was it was just prosperity, because they were trying to get people to donate extra at that time. So they'd have the normal tithe, and then they'd have what they'd call a second offering, or love offering to invest in the kingdom and to invest in the church. So, and most of the people who did that with absolutely. I mean, I threw in extra at the time. You know, I certainly couldn't afford it either. And I did that with all good intention. And I even questioned whether some of the people in leadership had bad motives. I think it's just everyone gets trained in a certain way, and that's what drags everyone. It becomes habit. You know, the next generation will be trained to do the same thing, and so on and so on, and they don't realize they're using things like neuro-linguistic programming and when I say NLP. So to give you an example of that, what will happen, you know, say in a sermon is you might talk about, and the Lord wants you to think about this certain verse and there, and now I'm going to come back down a tone because this is the message that I want you to hear, and this is the bit that's going to stick with you. Things along those lines. But it's very
think the way they do it in a movie. You know, like think absolutely. The emotions you'll feel in the different ways. Like for me, this is the way I think of it because I have a bit of a director's mind, and so and that's kind of why, because I was trained in that same kind of way, and that's speaking and how to influence people using my speech. So yeah, sorry. I mean, I just realized I just barged in, but I'm kind of agreeing in every way. Like I didn't want to actually interrupt.
Yeah. I years ago still haven't found my copy of the book People in Glass Houses. It's a book written by someone who used to be a part of Hillstorm. I can't remember her name. Her last name's like Levine.
I like that written by someone. Well, I would hope the book wasn't.
It just appeared out of nowhere.
Yeah.
Like
hey, wow, if it did, maybe that's a real gospel and a real God.
And she was talking about how Hillsong uses music to influence the brainwaves in the brain. Shut up!
Well, I mean, there's obviously not many brainwaves going up in your brain.
A lot of people who go to concerts come out feeling like they've had a spiritual experience, and it's what the music does to them because music resonates so deeply with us.
That and the drugs.
Which is why churches use it. It's why modern churches use upbeat, lively music, get lots of different instruments so they can make a rich, strong sound.
Yeah, and
it's part of the. I'm loath to use the term brainwashing because I'm not necessarily sure that
it doesn't really apply.
Actively doing brainwashing, but it is along those lines.
Yeah.
I think it definitely applies. I think it is.
I was going to say it's actually quite much the same thing. There's not really many things to different. It's even close to what actual hypnosis is in the real life sense. Anyway, it's both subtle and overt forms of convincing a person to do what you want without even them realizing sometimes. But because in religion, it's a long-term game. In hypnotism, it's a short-term game. You know, you got to be able to, you do it quick.
But even when you look at like forms of marketing, they'll use the same tactics that are being used within the church.
Absolutely.
So,
absolutely.
it's a big sell. I mean, when you're in especially a charismatic church, it's all about, finding people and getting them saved, bring a friend along, and they've got, they're so processed in the way they do things. So I guess I'll do a quick 5-minute overview of, I guess, the steps that you take. So you go to a church, they do the bit at the end where, once again, they use the music. It's everyone's heads are bowed, eyes are closed, and just put your hand up if you feel as though you want to give your life to the Lord now. The whole no one's looking. I want to hang on for a second because the Lord's telling me there's someone here, and it's designed to get that person who's thinking or feeling that way to throw their hand up. So then what will happen is they get their hand up, they go up the front, and everyone prays, hugs them, and it makes them feel very, very much included. They get given a Bible, they get put into what's called a cell group or a small group. They went away from calling them cell groups after all the terrorist attacks and things like that. So they call them small groups, where it's essentially a Bible study group. And then once you've sort of gotten to a point, and almost once you've brought enough people along and you've gone through the processes, and you've recognized and renounced your sins, and almost had like a having a mental blank where they cast the demons out of you.
Exorcism.
Exorcism.
That's the one. Yeah. So it's too many beers and too late on a Saturday night. So it's all right. I don't have church tomorrow, so it's all good.
Wait. Too many beers? There's no such thing.
It's the excuse.
One beer is too many, NotJah.
If you're going to drive, yes, but come on.
I have
Too many alcohol. Yes.
Like that, not on the whiskey. But so that's sort of it's very much that process where the goal is then to, and this is how I sort of stepped up. It's then I was put into I guess like helping out the small group leader, and then it's I've got a background with singing, so once they discovered that, well, I was straight onto the worship team, and then it's almost like a career progression plan, and because I was sort of going down that path of I was going to be a pastor, they fast track a lot of things, but even for the average person in the church, I mean, it's people get in and there is a big drop off rate. Like a lot of people get in and get out very quick, but the ones who stick around will then tend to go on and be the small group leader, and then once you're sort of someone's at that small group leader point, they're bought in, they're absolutely bought in, and they've got them. Unless they go and read the Bible and do what I did and get out.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, Chris. I really appreciate it. I'm actually going to wrap this up now because I am about to pass out.
Too much alcohol, Mary.
No, it's too many hours vertical. Fucking had to.
Yeah, much a long day.
Up at freaking 6:15 on a freaking Saturday.
Mary doesn't matter. That was horizontal.
Yeah. Yeah, you need definitely more horizontal hours.
I very much need horizontal hours. And everyone can interpret it whichever way they wish.
That was the point.
I went sleep.
You're a boyfriend and girlfriend, aren't you?
Kind of
Who?
thing. I don't know.
Nobody even knows who I am, motherfucker.
I saw this
Who
video.
the fuck is that, dude?
Yeah.
Dude, it's all rumors.
How the
man.
fuck did he get in here?
Who is he?
Yeah, like, what the hell's going on?
Jesus isn't real, but Nacho is.
All right.
Keep me out of this.
So everyone's links to your channels down below. Please go subscribe to Chris/Atheist Pastor. He's brand new on the scene. Thank you very much, everyone, for showing up. NotJah, can you take us out? Or actually, no, we'll go the other way because you started. Chris, you start.
Yeah, thanks, everyone. Look, I guess the more people who want to come and have a look at what I've got, the better. I don't have a lot there at the moment.
Wow.
No,
sorry, dude.
That kind of channel, Chris.
I'm so deeply offended. I'm going to go and pray for you and pray for your salvation later, and you'll step away. From it.
I'm already burning.
well, hey, at least I'll be in good company then.
Yeah.
Hey,
All the cool kids will be in hell.
Absolutely. Well, who just want to go there worshipping some self-indulgent prick? I mean, it's up there sucks. Down
there is always better.
Yeah, and as soon as I said that, I thought, gee, that's going to come back and bite me.
I hope they don't bite you.
Well, maybe I'm into that. You don't know.
No judgment, man. No judgment.
Thanks for hosting this. Thanks for letting me say hi. And look, I guess I want to encourage anyone who is on the right side of politics out there. Look, don't be afraid. You're not alone.
Join us. We want to hear your voices.
Yeah.
It's and even if anyone just as far as not necessarily wanting to follow on YouTube or anything like that, but anyone who's sort of struggling, and I know that there's a lot of people who probably aren't out as atheists who will follow these channels, but flick me a message on Twitter. It's atheist_pastor. If any support you need, any advice, even if I can put you in touch with people who can help, that's what I'm happy to. That's what I'm about. I guess helping people out of religion and managing that. So even if you're not comfortable completely coming out, but you just want someone to talk to, just hit me up.
Very nice.
Thank you, Chris. Jen?
Yeah, you guys all know who I am. I hope so. Go and check my channel out. Go and follow me on Twitter. I'm usually getting, despite saying that I wasn't going to get embroiled in other people's arguments, it seems to be all I ever freaking do on Twitter.
yes, it does.
I'm bad. Check out my channel. I swear way more than Mero does. And don't choke on that selfie stick.
NotJah?
Oh, well, I've been NotJah Witness, and I do NotJah Witnessy things. Come check me out at NotJah Witness pretty much everywhere and see I am apparently either real or not real. Make up your own mind, but I am apparently there. I have a thing and I do stuff. But, at the end of the day, who am I?
And go watch our tribute video on NotJah if you haven't seen it yet. It's fucking awesome. And everyone needs to go and needs to check out Art's song because it's amazing.
I was about to say, actually, speaking of that song, I am going to be doing a video clip for that song. And that's my next project I'm going to be working on. And it is going to be funky and weird. Be ready for that.
Looking forward to it.
Well, my name's Meredith, aka Nervardia. Yes, actually, my name is actually Meredith, everyone. And
well, yeah, that's kind of what you said.
Yeah, some people think that my name is not Meredith; it's Nervardia. But anyway, I respond to both.
That'd be cool if it was, though.
No, but isn't your name actually Nerd? Like,
Nerd.
really?
It's also Nerd. It's also Mero as well. I have many identities.
At least your name is easier to pronounce than Nachos.
Yeah.
Yeah, but we don't have to get into what my real name is.
It is.
I bet Mero doesn't have it right there or anything. Yeah. Because this is the only way that she can say hello to me, like using my real name. She can never remember how to spell it by herself.
Given how large that writing is.
I knew it. So Godless Stray and my previous alter ego was like able to go, hey, this is what it is. So for you all need it.
Yeah, learn my name, bitches.
Five woo. Anyway, I hope you all had a wonderful time listening to our stream. Thank you very much, all of you, especially in the side chat, for your comments, your likes, your comments and likes and interactions. I really appreciate all of my fans and all of the people who are joining in. So thank you so much. And thank you very much, Chris, Jen, and Nacho. And don't forget, don't give yourself the raw prawn. See you later, everyone.
And my lot are pretty cool too. Bye, peeps.